You gonna start up?
The Empowerment Show aims to equip individuals with the necessary tools, knowledge, and confidence to make informed decisions and take control of their lives. It also focuses on ensuring access to essential resources and the opportunities.
All right. Good evening. What's happening? What's happening? Welcome to the Empowerment Show. I'm also here again with my brother, Mr. Ronald Yates. He's more like well, for me, he's more like that political scientist that you need to set you straight, that'll give you the right information. Well, that's what we try to do here on the Empowerment Show. Is that we try to empower you with information. What's happening, my brother? How you, man?
I'm well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing all right. But you know, I was just listening on the news. You hear about with Trump and his buddies? They were all up in the office and they were all having a ha 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 out of all of the money that they made.
Yes. hmm
That's ridiculous, man. I mean, we didn't make any money. You made any money?
I didn't make any money.
So to me, this sounds like it was planned out. That's what it sounds
Well,
like. It sounds like it was a plan, like it was meant to be. Hmm.
well, you know something. What is happening was done step by step, right? Um, Several months back, when Trump was first got in office, and he and Elon Musk got together, some of the first people they fired were people from some of the regulatory agencies that would investigate things like insider trading. Um, and they started systematically dismantling the Justice Department, right? I mean, in terms of prosecutions, talking about prosecutions as it relates to white collar crimes on a federal level, who's left to prosecute or to investigate if this is a case of insider trading, which many people say it is. So when the market went down, of course, there was a sell-off. People are
Hmm.
selling, their stocks, and people are buying them at rock bottom prices. So that's basically what Trump and his cohorts did. They manipulated the market, drive prices down, and then they went, bought up those stocks, and made themselves hundreds of millions of dollars in the process.
Isn't that illegal? I mean, somewhere along the line, that's got to be illegal.
Well,
Insider trading, isn't that what you call the insider trading? Isn't that
it
illegal to
is
do
that
that?
that is why Martha Stewart went to jail, right?
That's
Um,
right.
I can't really think of any other men that went to jail for that. Um, I think they were making an example of Martha Stewart to let her know you're not part of the crew,
The good
right?
old boy crew.
The good old boy crew. So she went to jail for insider trading. And if you look at some of Trump's inner circle, and even those members of Congress that support him, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, she made a lot of money
Hmm.
over these last couple of weeks, right? So this is definitely, in my opinion, insider trading.
Yeah, in my opinion, it is too. And I wish there was something we could do about it. I know we're gonna. There's supposed to be big time marches happening around the country on the 18th. I don't know if I'm going to show up for any of them, but uh, I I hope that they do a good job with the protest because it may be their last. This man is talking about instituting martial law. So if he institutes martial law, you can forget about your First Amendment rights. You can forget about that.
Well, I did hear not so much about the martial law, but I did hear yesterday when he was meeting with the president of El Salvador
Oh yeah.
that he was saying the next batch of people to be sent to El Salvador should be Americans, Americans that have committed violent crimes. But who is determining what is a violent crime? Normally, it would be up to the Justice Department or the judiciary, state, federal, local, to determine what is a violent crime. But Trump and those around him have redefined what they consider violent crime. For
Well,
instance,
they seem to rewrite everything when it comes to what a crime is because I mean by his standards he should be on a plane going to El Salvador.
Right. You're right. And, one of the things that he said was that if you say burn a Tesla or a Tesla dealership, that is terrorism. Well, you
Mm,
can't terrorize an inanimate object. You cannot terrorize a car. Cars do not feel fear, or are not in place are not placed in fear for their safety.
hmm.
But he has basically, again, rewritten the law to say that because Elon Musk is a huge donor of his,
Hmm.
that if you harm his business in any way, then you should be found or tried, arrested and tried as a terrorist. And if that's the case, if you're considered, if you're brought up on charges related to terrorism, then they can put you on a plane and you can end up in El Salvador.
Well, they're saying, from what I can see, it doesn't matter whether you're from El Salvador, wherever you're at. If you commit a crime, pretty much, if he doesn't like you, he's going to stick you on a plane and send you to, I guess that's America's, what do you call it, Siberia? Remember they used to, when the Russians had a problem with people, they would ship them off to Siberia. So I guess that's what El Salvador is to us now.
Well, at least Siberia was part of the Soviet Union at the time.
Hmm.
This is an entire different nation, right? And the thing is, he told the president of El Salvador, you're going to need at least 5 more buildings.
Hmm.
Well, who is going to finance those buildings? Right now, the American taxpayers are paying for the transportation and incarceration of these people that they're deeming to be violent criminals and gang members.
Hmm.
None of these people have been vetted to determine who's who. And the one individual in the administration that admitted that we sent this guy to El Salvador mistakenly,
Illegally.
right? Well, he has been removed from his post. So basically, if you're going to tell the truth, there's no room for you in the Trump
Hmm.
administration.
Hmm. Yeah, if you're a good liar, you're in a good place.
Right,
If you're
right.
willing to lie and kiss the ring, then you're in a good place. But what's going to happen to that kid over there in El Salvador, man? You think they're gonna let him come back to America? Because Trump is talking about, well, you got to go by the court system over there. That we don't have anything else to do with it.
Well, Trump, as usual, is lying. In fact, prior to the arrival of the El Salvadoran president, Trump and his administration had been blocking the return of this particular individual. I can't think of his name right now, but they've been blocking his return. They went to court and asked the courts to block his return. The Supreme Court, the case is now before the Supreme Court. And basically, they kind of shifted the case back to the lower court, saying that the lower court should in some way facilitate his return, which is stopping way short of ordering his return and holding people in contempt if he is not returned to his family. So, will he be returned? Um, I guess I'm going to be cautiously optimistic that at some point he may be returned. I think that a lot more people are going to be headed in that direction. In fact, one of the things that Trump is saying now, at least the administration is saying, is that the number of deportees is down. They wanted to see a steady flow of, I don't know, I forget what the number is, of people deported on a daily, weekly basis, and those numbers are down. So
Well, I'll
it
tell
puts
you,
a lot of
as far as deportation goes, a lot of the farmers, they're not really happy with that because there's nobody showing up to do the work. And like some states, they're trying to impose that child labor law again, where they're letting the kids underage, where they can go to work, and they're probably going to use those kids out there in the fields.
um well, yeah, if you have families that are poor families, right? And
Hmm.
you need to work out in the fields for your own survival. Yeah, it is very possible to see these young people out there. In fact, I think Florida has a measure before the Florida legislature to
Yeah,
allow
they have
kids as
something in
young as
front of the
14.
legislation now.
Yeah, that's to allow kids as young as 14 to work at night, right?
Mm,
Um, Out in the fields, right?
mm.
I think what people do not realize, right, is that this is a new form of slavery, right? You know, people think I'm in America, I'm free, I can do whatever I want. No, you can't, right? This is no longer a free country. You know, what happens is when you are, say, a resident of another country, but you have a student visa and you come here and, you know, you're told in America you have certain rights. But when you speak out against something like Israel's genocidal acts,
Mhm.
you get uh, hauled in by ICE and deported. And that's happened twice with Mahmoud Khalil and a woman from Tufts University who's
Right,
still
right.
being held in Louisiana. Since when is invoking your First Amendment right a crime?
Well, because it's a crime in the Trump administration. If you don't kiss the ring, you don't do what he says you want him to do. You don't go his way. You don't agree with him like any other dictator or monarch. This is what they do. I mean, in Korea, you might disappear and they never see you again. In Russia, you definitely probably will disappear and then never see you again if you speak out against the government. And see, this is what he wants to institute. He wants to put out there that he's in charge, he's the king, and what goes, whatever goes, is what he says goes. That's
Well,
it.
I'll tell you something. In fairness to Trump, which Trump isn't fair to anyone except himself, this has been going on for some time. Trump just raised it to a new level. There was a member of the military by name of Snowden, Eric Snowden.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. And what he was doing, he was a whistleblower talking about what the US military was doing in Iraq and Afghanistan. Our government never went and said or came before the American people and said, okay, we were wrong, right? They never said nothing he said was untrue. They just said, we have to shut him up. Just like the guy from WikiLeaks, right? WikiLeaks was leaking government information that showed what our government was doing in Iraq and Afghanistan. So for years, we hunted the founder of WikiLeaks to
Mm.
shut him up. So this is something that it's not new, right? But Trump, like with everything else, has elevated it to a new level, right? The government would at least try to make some attempts to hide certain activities. Now it's front and center.
Yep.
And basically, Trump is saying, well, what are you going to do about it?
They put it smack dead in your face. Trump is not saying what you're going to do about it. Trump is telling you you're not going to do a damn thing about it. And whatever
Well,
it is that you feel you want to do about it, don't matter because he's going to do what he wants to do. He
well,
circumvent the courts. He tells the court pretty much to go to hell.
well, that's what I mean, right? You know, he's basically saying to the court system across this country, what are you going to do about it? You know, because we're supposed to have three co-equal branches of government. So the judiciary should have the power and the authority to rein in even the president, right? And what Trump is saying is, no, I reserve the power, not only the executive power, but also the power of the judiciary. So I will make determinations as to what is legal in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, the Supreme Court has fallen in line with Trump. I mean, these were Trump supporters from when he first showed up on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And he has appointed several of them. You know, I think 3 or 4 people were appointed under Donald Trump, and they're going to be there for some time, right? Um, Probably what should have happened when Biden was still in office and there was some talk that he would expand the court from 9 to maybe 12 or 11.
Yeah,
He
maybe he
didn't do
should have
that.
expanded it.
He should have, right? Because now we're basically left with a band of Trump appointees who, whatever he does, no matter how unconstitutional, blatantly unconstitutional, No one is saying, hey, Mr. President, you can't do that.
Right. No one is saying that. Okay,
Right.
we're gonna take about 30 seconds, brother. And when
Okay,
we
sounds good.
come back, we'll pick it up on the other side. All right, here we go.
All right.
You know, every time I see this daggone commercial, man, it reminds me of me when I was younger and I actually had a muscle to pump up. You know,
Right.
because you see these kids are they're amazing, man, with the body fatigue. I guess that's what they say that what was it? Youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah,
I sure would take some of that youth right now, boss.
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. You know, I also was hearing about the Chinese and how they're starting to want to hack us and stuff like that.
Well, hacking is something that we have done to the Chinese have done to us. One thing about computers, right, as we become more technologically advanced, I mean, we see it in this country, right? You think that because you have a computer security system, right? Like you buy it from one of these companies and you think your information is safe. It's not. These hackers become more and more advanced, more and more skilled. And let's be realistic. The government goes out and recruits these people as
Hmm.
hackers to hack into other countries' systems,
You
right?
got to take
And
an exam too. You know, they actually have a hackers exam.
well, yeah, they want to know if you can do these things, if you are as skilled as you think you are, right?
Hmm.
They want to know if you can hack into various systems. And, this is something that America has done throughout the world. And the Chinese, what's interesting about the Chinese, they sat back for years. The Chinese took a lot of abuse, right? Um, for many, many years. You got to
Hmm.
figure they were beaten by the Japanese. They had the Nanking massacre, and I think it was 1935. That one, it may have went on for a month. 300,000 Chinese were killed. During the Korean War, wave after wave of Chinese came into northern Korea. Many of
Hmm.
them were killed, right? Under Mao Zedong, there was very little food. They had a one-child policy. So, and in this country, we ridiculed the Chinese for a long time, right? Well, and one of the things we did, Chinese came here, built the railroad, then we kicked them out. And they had laws aimed specifically at the Chinese. No Chinese allowed in this country. So they took a lot of abuse. But what they did was they sat back and they watched and they waited. And over time, they put themselves in a position to take advantage of America's fall from grace. So when American corporations, let me say that again, American corporations decided it was too costly to do business here, China, Vietnam, Indonesia, and places like that were prime locations, cheap labor.
Hmm.
Well, for the Chinese, Indonesians, the Vietnamese, these were jobs, right? So they began to strengthen and build their economies. So while the US economy slipped, well, I mean, just the other day, the Chinese said what it cost them to make, say, one of these designer bags and what it's sold for here, right? How much the markup is for them. So, they were very smart people. They sat and they watched and they're beating America and America's economic allies at their own game.
Yeah, well, I think Trump is an idiot. Excuse my French. I don't think he's an idiot. I think he knows what he's doing, but I think he's crazy with these tariffs because all he's doing is creating a trade war, and a trade war is not. We're not going to end up winners in a trade war. Everything we buy is from someone else. Everything that's made is from someone else. And for people to actually think that manufacture is going to come back to this country, they left because they couldn't afford to be here.
Well, you know what? Actually, they left because they couldn't make the money they wanted to. They could have stayed in this country, but they did not. The labor unions were demanding more, right? More in terms of salaries, benefits. And the American companies just said no. Corporations exist for one reason, that's to make money and maximize profits, right? So now you have a situation where Trump is saying we need to bring the manufacturing jobs back, right?
Hmm.
Well, why do we let them go in the first place? Why would our government allow good paying jobs like here in Pennsylvania, Bethlehem Steel, right? For years, generations, Bethlehem Steel provided good salary, good benefits for one generation after the other, making high grade steel that was shipped around the world.
Hmm.
Now, that same steel we get from China. Why would we close and, stop the furnaces from burning and producing the steel? Simply because they looked at the bottom line and said, you know what? If we do this in China, we can maximize our profits. And
Hmm.
now you have the government saying, well, wait a minute, we need to bring manufacturing back. Well, the government let it go. And what's happening is working class and poor people are suffering now
Well, I'm
from
going to
the
tell you, I'm going to tell you,
government.
I remember during that time with the steel industry and stuff like that, and a lot of Americans, they got tired of paying the high prices. They wanted to pay lower prices, and in order for that to happen, they would actually the work would have had to be done overseas, and the backlash of it is that Americans, yes, lost their jobs.
But you know what? We were paying lower prices. If you think about it, right? The average car today is probably in the neighborhood of about $30,000, right? When I was growing up, from the time I was in elementary school, my father only drove Cadillac, right? That was something that was denied to a lot of black men. So he drove Cadillac. I'm sure you remember when Cadillac had those chrome bumpers.
Oh yeah, we used to. Anyway, yeah, I remember them.
Well, you got to figure those cars were made of heavy material, steel for the chassis, chrome, heavy bumpers, and we paid a fraction of what we're paying today for cars that are made of plastic. So, you know, um, it wasn't
Well,
so much
that's kind
the
of
prices was
comparison
too high.
prices from yesterday as today. I mean, you got to look. I would look at it as this: if whatever it was yesterday, you got to compare it to what it is today at the same price. I mean, $10 wasn't $10. $10 today wasn't the same as $10 yesterday. $10, a dollar
Absolutely.
yesterday may have been the same as $10 today.
Yeah, but you got to look at it in terms of there's really no comparison because the cars then, right, again, were made of heavy grade materials. If you got into a fender bender, your car would not be totaled,
Oh, I agree
right?
with you 100% on that. 100%.
Now, the same car at a low speed impact is totaled because it's made of plastic.
Of a
So, what
cheaper
we have,
material. They're using a
right?
cheaper material. They're making them cheaper, and they're charging more money for it. I understand
Exactly.
that 100%.
Exactly.
And
So,
they're
I
allowed to
mean,
get away with it. And they're allowed to get away with it.
exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
and now that they got the tariffs on that are coming in, what it was 125% tariff. A car that used to cost you 30,000 now is probably going to cost you 40 or 45,000 for the same car.
Probably more than that, right? And of
Mm-hmm.
course, the effect will be it'll cause the economy to drag even more, right? Because the economy runs on people going out, stimulating the economy by buying. Well, if I can't afford to buy, right, I'm going to hold on to my money, right? Well, that money's not being invested in the economy. So when you have less people buying, when you have people who've lost their jobs from the government firing them and all these other things and other job losses, less people going out shopping, buying material, buying these things like cars, refrigerators, durable goods.
More people
It's
keeping their
only going
money
to
in their
hurt the
pocket.
economy. Exactly. It's
Mhm.
only going to hurt the economy, right? And, they're talking about possibly a recession by the end of
Yeah,
the
that
year.
was my next question. Do you
Right.
think we're gonna have a recession? I mean, I think we go through little periods of recession now and then. I actually think we're probably gonna go beyond a recession. We may end up in a depression state.
I don't know if it'll be that bad. right? If that would happen, Trump would be in a lot of trouble
Hmm.
because a depression would be basically a global depression, right?
Yes, it will.
You'd be dragging down all these other economies down with you. And I don't think they're going to allow that. I don't think uh, the major American companies, corporations, are going to allow Trump to destroy. Just think about it. A corporation like Citibank, trillions of dollars in assets. I don't think they're going to allow Trump to burn through trillions of dollars. And this company that may be trading at, just off the top of my head, say $1,000 a share, will be selling at 50, 60 cents. I don't think they're going to allow that to happen and wipe out the wealth of all of these people that invest in Citibank.
The billionaire bros. Yeah, speaking about
Yeah.
the billionaire bros, you see Elon Musk and Trump, they're at odds with each other, especially over this tariff. He wants to have zero tariffs. That's what he wants. Elon Musk, is who I'm talking about, the Muskrat. Have you heard his brother? His brother was pretty much
Mhm.
calling Trump an idiot.
Right.
You hear
And
about that?
I knew that was going to happen, right? Because you cannot have two egomaniacs sharing the same space. It
Hmm.
simply will not work, right? Trump, we've known for some time, right, that Trump is extremely narcissistic. And when you have someone that is sharing the spotlight with you, it doesn't work, right? So, basically, Musk was kind of shown the door, right? Respectfully, because Trump, or rather Musk, still has hundreds of billions of dollars that he could invest with the Democratic Party. So even though he's no longer there with his chainsaw, um, Trump is still going to tread lightly as it relates to um, Elon Musk.
I know we got the
And
last couple of minutes left, and
Mhm.
we like to leave a little tail or something as to where we're going to pick it up next week. So really, I like to go over a little bit more of the news this week and see how these things turn out, especially about these tariffs, because he's up and down about them. He puts them on one week, he takes them off, he puts them on, he takes them off. So I mean, that's one of the most threatening things to this country, and as well as the deportation, the way he's deporting people.
Well, I think something that is of equal importance is, we always hear about radical Islamic terrorism
Joffrey,
or radical Islamists. I think that
come here, please.
just as dangerous is radical Zionism. And I
Hmm.
think that's something that should be discussed because, like just the other day, we had the governor's house attacked in
Oh
Portsmouth,
yeah, Governor Shapiro.
Governor Shapiro.
Jeez, set
And
the
what they
man's
say,
house on fire with his family
yeah,
in the house.
yes, with them in the house, yeah. So
Mm.
his intent was to kill them, right? The family. Hi there.
Say hi.
Hi.
So for all our viewers, this is my grandson. He's the next to the youngest, and his name is Joffrey. So he needs to be attended to because I got grandpa duty today.
Ah, okay, okay. Yeah.
So it's all good though. He was very quiet and very good. He's going to be 5 years old, so he's still
Oh,
good to
good,
go.
good. Good for you,
Yeah, yeah,
Joffrey.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So that's why I say we're gonna pick everything up next week.
Papa.
And
Yeah.
what I would like to say is thank you guys for tuning into the Empowerment Show. And as it says at the bottom, leave me a like on Facebook, and if you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe to the site. We could always use the subscribers because we like to keep this thing rolling. All right, and
All
don't forget,
right.
here on the Empowerment Show, we are a variety show. We don't just bring you one thing. We try to bring you several pieces of content from several pieces of people. So with this, we'll be trying to reach more and more different a demographic of people. Okay,
Papa.
so don't forget now. Wednesday we have Miss Betty Terrell, and she is amazing. She's the woman from Mountaintop. I don't know if you know about Mountaintop, the Pocono Mountaintop, that organization. Well, she is that organization and so much more. And she's going to sit here with me in my little studio, and we're going to have a nice little conversation. All right, so
Sounds
stay
good.
tuned tomorrow, 6 o'clock.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Say
Have a
goodbye.
good day. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.